So tonight, we are taking an in-depth look at India's economy and with its huge workforce through the eyes of three Indian expats, all graduates of one of India's most famous tech university, the IIT, the Indian Institute of Technology. So let me get them in one by one. We have Dr. Smita Hashim, Chief Product Officer at Zoom. She's based in Silicon Valley and has also worked at Google and Microsoft. Thanks for joining us, Smita. Briefly tell us about the lore of IIT.
IITs are phenomenal and they are really highly sought. They are incredibly sought after institutes in India. Hundreds of thousands of students sit in those exams and a very small percentage get selected. And that is a ticket to a transformative education and then for most a transformative life.
So we're talking about numbers here. 1 million students nearly sit for these exams for 10,000 seats.
Yes.
Oh my God. And imagine the competition there, because I'm from India and I know for a fact that it's a parent's dream to make your child either a doctor or engineer. Arjun Malhotra is co-founder of HCL, one of India's first major computer companies. Arjun, you went through the cycle, didn't you?
It was a lot easier in my time. There were only 300,000 people for 1,400 seats.
And what's the time this time? How far back are we talking about?
I did my entrance exam, the joint entrance exam in 1965.
Ooh. And the institution has still survived. But as you said, the competition was perhaps a fewer number of students, but I'm sure it was intense.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And did you prepare for it in any special way?
Not really. I did my O-levels. We call them Senior Cambridge in December. The exams were in April or so. So you just revised whatever you had done. There was some difference in the course. There were some things that the O-level or the Indian school certificate didn't teach you that higher secondary taught you. And so you had to catch up on that. But you just did your revision.
And let me get Gunjan Bagla, CEO of Amritt based Malibu near LA. He's author of the book Doing Business with India in the 21st Century and works with American and European firms to help them adapt to Indian business practices. So Gunjan, Arjun just sailed through it seems. And Smita still remembers it fondly. And you're a product of the same institute. Why is it important? Why is it important for young students to compete in these exams?
So if you look at corporate India and you look at the top echelons of the Indian government, you will find IIT graduates everywhere. Okay? I was national president of the IIT Alumni Association, and so I got involved with alumni everywhere. And you see that the education that they get from the IITs transforms them and enables them to have the courage and to take risks, to take on big projects, just
so,
like
a path to an aspirational life, one could say it as well, to getting through the right doors for a job from which you can build a home, buy a car, get a partner as well, be able to get the kind of fancy job and high-paying job as well. But looking at India today, it is got a young workforce. As I was saying earlier, 65% of its population is under the age of 35. How do you view this, Arjun? Is it a demographic dividend, or are we looking at impending disaster with rising unemployment there?
You know, it is a dividend that we have. It's up to India and up to us to make sure that we train them so that they can be employed. You know, there was a CII, Confederation of Indian Industries study some years ago that said for the educated, that's the engineer, MBA type class, there'll be 2 million extra Indians. But for the skilled workers, the electricians, the plumbers, etc., there would be a 13 million shortfall. And so there is a fairly active movement to try and skill more and more people in the skill area. It's a huge problem. 13 million is not a small number to set up and train and at a level of quality.
Why is it a problem? Why is it a problem to skill them?
You know, how do you get that many people, the infrastructure, the trainers, the the equipment to do that training, etc., etc. And so there are a number of very interesting organizations that are doing training. There's one that's called PARFI, Pan IITians Action for
Okay.
India, that trains and guarantees a job.
But
And
are
so they,
these jobs well paying, Smita? Because from where you're at, you also are an employer and somebody who is recruiting people. What kind of quality of talent are you seeing from India?
Kind of talent from India that we see and I see. And remember, Devina, I am in Silicon Valley, I'm at Zoom, so I'm recruiting for highly technical
Yeah.
jobs. And when we look at those technical jobs, I mean, Indians, the quality of applications that we get from Indians is pretty phenomenal. I mean, we recruit globally, so we get people from other countries as well, but
But are they
definitely
going up in number, these applications?
uh, I feel like they are going up. There's a lot of Indians in Silicon Valley. We see a lot of applications that are coming in, but as a percentage, is the number of Indian applications going up amongst the application candidate pool we see? I'm not sure if I'm seeing big differences in numbers over there,
Hmm.
but we continue to get a fair amount of high quality, talented Indians who are educated in India, and a lot of them have come here to United States and continued their education. So I see that, but I don't know if I've seen the numbers change significantly in the last 20 years or so I've been recruiting.
And Gunjan, here are two scenarios then, because what Arjun has referred to is the India which is trying to get access to even getting skilled to apply for a job. The other India is a more privileged India, which already has access to a good education, can try and even look for jobs abroad. So, what's the gap between the two? And do you see it filling?
Oh, yes, it is getting filled. And what's driving that is not software, not IT, as much as manufacturing in India. Okay? 20 years ago, nobody thought of India as a manufacturing superpower. But today, that is happening. Most of the news you've seen in the last couple of years about manufacturing in India has to do with Apple Computer and its suppliers setting up assembly plants to build iPhones and computers and iPads. And that alone is going to employ 100,000 Indians in a very, very rapid pace. Okay, that's just one company creating those jobs through its suppliers. Okay, but I have visited dozens of factories in India as part of my work that are absolutely world class. I visited the largest plastic bottle maker in India. And once you step inside their doors, you really see a factory that could be anywhere in the world. It could be Germany, China, or the US. Okay?
Ha-
And
ha-
those factories are growing.
Have you seen this change as well, Arjun? Because you started HCL, which is one of the largest IT companies in India, in 1975 from a garage with 6 people. And the challenges you faced as an entrepreneur then, have they changed now?
yes, I think you don't have most of those challenges. When we started, it was what they called a license Raj. You had to get government permission to do any manufacturing. Right. Now it's pretty open. We had to give government a plan on our imports, which they had to clear. Otherwise, for example, chips couldn't come into the country. Now it's pretty much open. So doing business today is so much simpler. We used to have budgets every year. So your business plan, your action plan changed every year because the duties would vary from 25% to 140%. And obviously, you had to change your plans. Today, you have a projection. The government tells you what it's going to do over 4 or 5 years. And so you can afford to do some level of strategic long term planning. Wasn't possible in our time. So we learned how to manage in a crisis. And most Indian companies or Indian entrepreneurs of my generation are really great crisis managers because that's what you did all the time.
And
You don't have to do that today.
but there's always a question with the world's most populous country. Why is it that if you look at global companies, one would perhaps, even in the tech industry, look more towards the West, towards the US? If you look at brands like Apple, Microsoft, Google, uh, why is it that still India cannot boast of such names?
So India didn't have a large domestic market. And so we designed for most of the world. So, even a company like HCL that started off in hardware, basically making machines for India. And just to give you an example, we had lots of power failures in my time, unpredictable power failures. Didn't have enough programmers. So we built a power shutoff auto restart. You used a lead acid truck battery to hold the computer, all the registers when the power went off. So it started exactly from that point when the power came on.
Mm-hmm.
You have UPSs today, but we didn't have them at that time, at least smaller ones. And it basically, I think that's basically what people need to do. Today, you've got a large enough market. You're going to see India, in my view, in the next 10, 15 years, you'll see Indian hardware brands all over the world.
But Gunjan, you've been advising a lot of companies to look and work in India. What are they telling you? What are the kind of fears that they have?
Foreign companies working in India?
Yes.
Yeah. So many of their fears actually are outdated. Okay. And part of that is driven by the fact that media here in the United States in particular is still stuck looking at the India of snake charmers and traffic jams, and they don't often see the changes that are happening in India in a good way.
So give us an example. For example, what are they saying about India? How are they looking at it when they talk about investing in India?
So American companies who have spent some effort looking at India and go there with open eyes find a market that is growing faster than any other G20 economy. Okay, they find a government that is much more willing to accept foreign investment.
And those that are not?
Those who are not going to India?
Yes, what are they saying? Why are they not heading to India?
Because historically, they've been focused on countries that are frankly not the kind of democracy that India is. So you can go to China and you just have to talk to one or two key people and the path is laid out for you, right?
So the ease of doing business, you're saying, that the system of setting up a factory, trying to get workers and trying to get all the system going, that still remains a concern.
No, I wouldn't say that, Devina. What I'm saying is that many American companies historically focused on China in the last 25 years. And in China, the way you get approvals is really you talk to the government and they co-invest with you and they get access to your IP. It's very different. India is a raucous democracy. So there's no one person who can make this happen, right? So it's the same. I tell my clients, it's the same as coming to the US. You've got to deal with state rules. You've got to deal with federal rules. You've got to make sure your pollution standards are met. The same kind of thing happens in India. So more and more companies now are realizing that it's too big a market to ignore. Okay, out of the Fortune 500 companies, I would say more than 400 are already in India. Okay, and some of them are going for the market. Others, like Smita mentioned, are going for the talent. Okay, and still others are going for the intellectual property and the brand. I did want to address one other point you brought up. Indian companies are making a global brand. You look at Tata Consultancy Services. Its value is now more than IBM, more than Accenture. Okay? They employ almost 500,000 people. You look at a company called Zoho in the software business. They're challenging Salesforce. Okay? They have $1 billion in revenue as a private company. So that's happening.
Yes,
not
absolutely.
Fast enough.
Not fast enough. That's the point. But Smita, how are you viewing India's story sitting from the US? Because we're also seeing that there is a constant flow of those who can leave the country, are leaving the country, which has been the brain drain that we have seen in India, which has been part of India's story for decades and decades, still continues. Because even as right now, Gunjan says, and Arjun talks about the opportunities in India for Indians themselves, that doesn't seem to be working. For many of them, it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, so I think a couple of comments, Devina. Even on the earlier conversation, Zoom as a company, we value the Indian market very highly. So we have, so we are there. We have 2 offices. We run our operations from there, but we have also expanded and we have a talent center where we are hiring talent as well. And in India, we are doing business as a video company, which we are known for, but we are also now expanding into phone. Getting that license has been quite complex, but now we have it. So we are experiencing some of that, and the Indian government has been very supportive, but the rules are what they are, and we are working through them, and they're working to simplify it. So that's our perspective as a global company doing work in India. You talked about the talent side, and it is true. I think we are still getting great talent coming to United States from India. But what I see more of, I'm seeing more movement back and forth. So I'm seeing people come from here also go back more, which was something which I didn't see before. So, so that's encouraging to see. Some of them go and a lot of them work for multinational companies. Some of them actually go and work for Indian companies, and then they come back here and then once again work for multinational companies. And we are seeing some phenomenal actually success from these people who are some of the true global tech citizens of the world now.
And looking ahead then, what is it that you would want the country to progress on? Me personally, I've been also looking at women's participation in the labor workforce, which remains quite low, even for one of the world's fastest growing economies right now. For you, what's the wish list?
My wish list as a woman in tech, especially, I feel like I want to see a lot more women representation in technology, in senior positions. I think the numbers are improving, but frankly, far too slowly.
Why is it slow?
It's a great question, Devina. I'll tell you, like IITs, when I went, there were 10 women and 250 men, and we were considered a huge class of women. We were considered phenomenal. Now it's up to, I hear, around 15, 18%, and the government is pushing it up further. I think there's a variety of factors which come into play, and certainly all the way from the way we program girls right from the early stages to all the support they get at every stage. Like I was told by one of the directors at IIT, just giving the women the option to attend an IIT, which is close to their home, started really accelerating. And, that's just kind of, I would have never even thought that IITs are such safe places. What happens to women as they progress, and how much of the responsibilities they take on, and how much risk they take, and what they're programmed to do? It's different. It's changing, but let's change it a lot more.
And Arjun, you spoke about the skill gaps as we started this conversation. And what kind of solutions, briefly, that you're looking at, and what would you want from the next government as it's formed?
Yeah, so, we've got the so-called ITIs, the Indian Technical Institutes, which are under labor, which give diplomas, not the IITs, which give degrees. We need to rejuvenate the ITIs. They used to be under the Labor Ministry, and they're now getting integrated into the Education Ministry. And so we will have end-to-end education there over time. But I do want to go back to that earlier point of girls in technical jobs. In medicine, for example, there are more women than men going into medical colleges. In fact, we joke about a particular medical college in Punjab where they've had to convert the boys' hostel to the girls' hostel, and the girls' hostel to the boys' hostel, and there's a 9-foot wall around the boys' hostel. So, it's, those things are happening. I look at my campus, IIT Kharagpur. We have some 18% girls out of 17,500 students now, and the mandate is to take it to 30%. And so more hostels are being built for girls. It is.
Yeah. I mean, that's a work in progress for sure. I would say that kind of question should not be there when you're talking about 2024. India being a young nation, and we are in a modern century. It should not be the question of whether we need equality. It should just be given in economies like India. But Gunjan, where are you at when you look at the big promises of India being this $5 trillion economy? That's a goal that's been set by the current government. But how realistic is this? And is it possible for whichever government comes into power next, looking at the various opportunities that are there and the challenges in the country?
So what drives India forward is its entrepreneurs and its corporate executives. They're two separate buckets, but in both cases, you find talent in India that is capable of scaling worldwide. That's why it's no surprise that the CEO of Starbucks is Indian American. The CEO of Novartis in Switzerland is an Indian American physician, right? My wish list for the next government would be that they bring in more private sector people at the highest echelons of the civil service. The Indian Administrative Service still runs like the British designed it, to collect taxes and to control the masses. And that's not what you need. You need people who are forward thinking, who can take risks, who will not be punished for bending the rules in favor of the growth of the country. So that's happening in some positions in India now, but not widespread. And that's my wish. If that one thing happened, India would be a 6 trillion economy by the early 2030s, not 5 trillion.
And briefly, before we just let you go, because I can see all of you in a screen in front of me, you all have settled now in the US. That's where you're joining me from. But given a chance, what would you go back to India? Just raise your hand and I can see it. Yes,
I have
Arjun
never left.
Gunjan. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I keep a home in Delhi. I have never really left India. I I've always been here temporarily.
Okay.
And so I go up and down. I do it 4 times a year. I spend half my time in India. And so yeah, that's why I'm going to retire.
Okay, that's a good one. Gunjan, what about you?
Well, we are soon going to have a non-stop flight from Los Angeles to Delhi. We don't have that. Arjun and Smita can fly non-stop from San Francisco. That will really change the way that Los Angelinos look at India.
Okay. And Smita, why is it that you don't want to go?
Well, I love visiting India. I have
But
many.
not settling there.
Not settling. I mean, California is home now, and my family is here. My daughter is here, so California is home. I love India. I love United States. I love California. I would like to think I'm a global citizen, but yes, California is home.
I'm sure the air is cleaner at least. I'm from Delhi and I can tell you it can get really polluted a lot of winter times. So, yes, but no place like home, as they say. But thank you so much, Dr. Smita Hashim, Chief Product Officer at Zoom, Gunjan Bagla, CEO of Amritt based Malibu near LA, and Arjun Malhotra, co founder of HCL, one of India's first major computer companies. It's been a pleasure to speak to all of you.